Have you ever wondered why some people seem so comfortable being alone while others dread even a moment of solitude? Why is it that in a world full of connections, many still feel lonely? And could it be possible that the answer to true happiness lies not in company, but in solitude? Imagine a day when you're not rushing to meet deadlines, respond to messages, or keep up with social expectations. Instead, you find yourself in a quiet space, just you and your thoughts. What would that feel like? Peaceful or unsettling? Here's a simple example. Think of your mind as a jar filled with water and sand. When shaken, it's cloudy and chaotic, much like a busy life. But when left still, the sand settles and the water becomes clear. That's the power of solitude. It brings clarity. Yet, in today's fast-paced world, we often forget to embrace this stillness. Welcome to Wisdom Woven, where we explore profound ideas to transform everyday life. If you're ready to unlock the joy of solitude and discover its hidden treasures, stay with us. Before we dive in, let me ask for a small favor. Did you know there are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of viewers actually subscribe? If you enjoy our content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Woven. It really motivates us to create more meaningful content for you. In this video, we'll explore why solitude is not something to fear but something to cherish. Drawing wisdom from Buddhism, we'll learn how being alone can open doors to self-discovery, inner peace, and joy. Solitude is not about isolating yourself, but about creating a space where you can reconnect with your true self. Buddhism teaches us that life's suffering often stems from our attachment to people, things, and situations. When we learn to be alone, we begin to understand the impermanent nature of these attachments and develop a sense of inner freedom. The practice of being alone allows us to pause and reflect, helping us grow emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Many fear solitude because it confronts them with their inner selves, the thoughts and emotions they've suppressed in the noise of daily life. But solitude is not your enemy. It's a teacher. It offers a chance to listen to your inner voice and rediscover the person you truly are. It's about moving from loneliness to a space of self-fulfillment. This journey begins by changing our perspective on being alone. Instead of seeing it as a void, we can see it as an opportunity to heal, grow, and find balance. Over the next parts of this series, we'll delve deeper into how Buddhism helps us unlock this power of solitude. Stay tuned. The Buddhist perspective on solitude. In the fast-paced world we live in today, we're constantly surrounded by noise. Whether it's the hum of city life, the chatter of social media, or the constant rush of responsibilities. But in all this, there's a wisdom often overlooked. One that speaks of peace, balance, and clarity, solitude. Buddhism, one of the oldest philosophies in the world, offers a unique perspective on being alone. It doesn't view solitude as something to fear, but rather as a space of healing and deep understanding. So, what does Buddhism teach us about solitude? At its core, Buddhism emphasizes the importance of mindfulness and detachment. We live in a world where we're often attached to the people around us, the things we own, and the identities we've built. But attachment, according to Buddhism, is the root of suffering. Solitude helps us to detach from the external world, to pause, and to connect with our inner selves. The Buddha once said, "You can search throughout the entire universe for someone who is more deserving of your love and affection than you are yourself, and that person is not to be found anywhere. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." This profound teaching highlights the importance of self-love and acceptance. Solitude, then, becomes an opportunity to give ourselves the love, care, and attention that we often seek from others. It's a space where we can heal, reflect, and rediscover who we truly are, beyond the roles we play in society. In Buddhist practice, there's a concept known as vipassana meditation, often called insight meditation. This practice encourages deep self-reflection and an understanding of the impermanent nature of all things. By being alone in a quiet space, we can begin to see the ebb and flow of our thoughts, emotions, and desires. We realize that everything, from our feelings of joy to our moments of frustration, is temporary. This realization is liberating, as it frees us from the grip of both attachment and aversion. When we stop identifying so strongly with our fleeting emotions, we begin to experience peace, even in moments of solitude. The Buddha also spoke about the concept of dukkha, which is often translated as suffering or dissatisfaction. One of the core teachings of Buddhism is that suffering is an inevitable part of life, and much of this suffering comes from our attachments, whether to people, possessions, or experiences. Solitude is a powerful tool for confronting this suffering head-on. In being alone, we can observe our attachments without judgment and begin to unravel the sources of our dissatisfaction. It's in this quiet space that we can see more clearly how our attachments, expectations, and desires often lead to our unhappiness. But why, you might ask, does solitude lead to such deep understanding? In Buddhism, the practice of being alone is closely linked to the idea of mindfulness. Mindfulness isn't just about being present. It's about being fully aware of the thoughts and feelings that arise within us, without becoming attached to them. In the noise of the outside world, we often rush through life, distracted by everything around us. But in solitude, we can slow down, breathe, and observe. This gives us a chance to reflect on our lives and truly understand our motivations, fears, and desires. Many of us struggle with loneliness because we associate it with emptiness, with a sense of missing something. But in Buddhism, there's a shift in perspective. Instead of seeing loneliness as a void, we can see it as an opportunity for growth. Solitude becomes a way to explore the depths of our own minds. It's an invitation to reconnect with our inner wisdom, to seek peace within ourselves, and to understand our true nature. Buddhism also teaches the concept of anatta, which means non-self. This teaching reminds us that our sense of self is not fixed. It is constantly changing and evolving. In solitude, we can begin to witness this transformation more clearly. We start to let go of the labels and identities we've clung to, recognizing that our true essence lies beyond these constructs. The more we allow ourselves to be alone, the more we understand that we are not defined by our external circumstances, but by our inner qualities, our compassion, awareness, and wisdom. But solitude isn't just about inner exploration. It also brings us closer to the natural world. Buddhism often speaks of the interconnectedness of all beings and things. When we take time to be alone in nature, whether it's sitting by a quiet stream, walking through a forest, or simply gazing at the stars, we tap into this deep sense of connection. Solitude allows us to step away from the distractions of modern life and experience the world in its purest form. In these moments, we realize that we are not separate from nature. We are part of it. And in this realization, we find peace. There's also a practical side to solitude in Buddhism, the idea of retreat. Buddhist monks and practitioners often go on solitary retreats to deepen their practice and understanding. These retreats might last days, weeks, or even months, but they are always centered on silence, reflection, and meditation. In these retreats, practitioners leave behind the noise of the world to focus on their spiritual growth. This practice teaches us that time spent alone can be incredibly enriching, providing the space to deepen our connection with our true selves in the universe. Buddhist teachings also emphasize the importance of sila, moral conduct. When we're alone, we're not bound by social expectations or external pressures, which gives us a unique opportunity to practice integrity and virtue. In solitude, we have the freedom to align our actions with our values, to be kind to ourselves, and to make decisions that lead us toward wisdom and compassion. This is where the true joy of solitude comes from, not in the absence of others, but in the presence of our own highest self. The famous Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, once said, "Loneliness is not a problem, it is an opportunity." This statement beautifully captures the essence of solitude in Buddhist thought. Loneliness is not something to be avoided or feared. It's an opportunity to reconnect with ourselves in the present moment. In solitude, we have the chance to become aware of the deeper truths of life, to let go of our attachments, and to cultivate a sense of peace that can't be found in the busyness of the world. Another crucial aspect of solitude in Buddhism is its relationship with compassion. While it may seem paradoxical, spending time alone actually enhances our ability to love and serve others. When we take the time to nurture our own well-being, we become more compassionate toward others. Solitude allows us to replenish our energy and spirit, so that we can give more fully to the people and causes that matter to us. In this way, solitude becomes not just a personal journey, but a path to greater kindness and service in the world. In Buddhism, we also find the concept of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Solitude offers us a way to break free from this cycle, at least for a moment. By withdrawing from the distractions and attachments of daily life, we can transcend the mind's constant churn and touch the stillness of the present moment. It is in this stillness that we glimpse our true nature, beyond all concepts of self, beyond all labels and judgments. And in this realization, we find freedom. As we embrace the Buddhist perspective on solitude, we begin to see that being alone is not an absence, but a presence. It is a presence of peace, clarity, and understanding. When we let go of our fears and attachments, we realize that solitude is not something to run from, but something to seek out. It is in solitude that we find our greatest teacher, ourselves. Inner peace, the foundation of joy. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a calm lake. On a peaceful day, the water reflects everything perfectly, clear, still, and beautiful. But when the wind blows, the water becomes rippled and disturbed, distorting everything it reflects. Now, think of the wind as the distractions of daily life. Stress, responsibilities, relationships, and constant thoughts. Just like the lake, when your mind is disturbed by these distractions, it cannot reflect anything clearly. But when you find a way to calm that mind, you experience true inner peace. This peace is the foundation of all joy. So, what exactly is inner peace? Simply put, it's a state of mental and emotional calmness, where the chaos of the outside world doesn't disturb your core. Inner peace is not about avoiding challenges or escaping from life's struggles. It's about finding a sense of calm amidst the storms of life. The Buddhist teachings tell us that inner peace is the result of understanding the impermanent nature of life, learning to let go of attachments, and cultivating a balanced mind. The more we seek external sources of happiness, the more we can feel unsettled, because those sources are constantly changing. People, possessions, achievements, they come and go. They cannot provide lasting joy because they are not permanent. But inner peace, once cultivated, becomes a source of joy that remains stable, no matter what happens around you. This is a profound truth that Buddhism has emphasized for centuries. True happiness comes from within, not from external circumstances. In Buddhism, the concept of dukkha, suffering, is central. It teaches that suffering arises when we cling to things that are temporary. Our desires, expectations, and attachments create a cycle of dissatisfaction. We constantly chase after things that we think will make us happy: money, fame, relationships, but these things are always changing. When we grasp onto them, we are left feeling empty when they inevitably change or slip away. However, when we learn to let go of attachments and accept the impermanent nature of life, we can find peace. The realization that everything is transient allows us to stop clinging and frees us from unnecessary suffering. This is where the practice of mindfulness becomes essential. Mindfulness is the art of being present in the moment, without judgment or distraction. It allows you to experience life as it truly is, without getting caught up in the endless cycle of thoughts and emotions that often lead to stress. When you practice mindfulness, you begin to notice the beauty in small things. The warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of birds chirping, the feeling of a deep breath. These simple moments become sources of joy because they remind you that peace is always available, no matter where you are or what is happening around you. Now, you might wonder, how do we begin to cultivate inner peace in our daily lives? The answer lies in developing a regular practice of meditation. Meditation is a powerful tool for quieting the mind and reconnecting with your inner self. It's not about stopping your thoughts, because thoughts will always come and go. Instead, it's about observing them without getting caught up in them, letting them pass like clouds in the sky. Through meditation, we learn to detach from our thoughts and emotions, creating space for peace to naturally arise. In the Buddhist tradition, meditation is often seen as the path to enlightenment. It's through meditation that we come to understand the nature of our minds, the impermanence of life, and the interconnectedness of all things. Meditation helps us see the world more clearly and understand our true nature, which is inherently peaceful and free from suffering. By regularly practicing meditation, we gradually let go of the distractions and attachments that disturb our inner peace, allowing us to experience life with a sense of calmness and joy. But cultivating inner peace doesn't only happen on the meditation cushion. It extends to every moment of your life. It's about bringing mindfulness into your everyday activities, whether you're eating, walking, talking, or simply breathing. When you are mindful of each moment, you create space for peace to enter your life. You stop rushing through life, always thinking about what's next, and start living fully in the present. This is where true joy lies, when you are present with yourself and the world around you, without judgment, without fear, and without attachment. Another important aspect of inner peace is learning to let go of the need for control. Life is unpredictable, and trying to control every outcome only leads to frustration and stress. In Buddhism, the concept of non-attachment is crucial. Non-attachment doesn't mean you don't care about anything or anyone. It means you understand that nothing in life is permanent, and you are free from the desire to hold on to things that may slip away. By practicing non-attachment, you allow life to flow naturally without forcing or resisting it. You stop trying to control every detail and start allowing things to unfold as they are meant to. This attitude of non-attachment is incredibly liberating. It frees you from the weight of expectations and the pressure to constantly prove yourself. When you stop seeking external validation, you are no longer at the mercy of others' opinions or judgments. Instead, you can stand firm in your own sense of peace and joy, unaffected by the ups and downs of life. You realize that you don't need anyone or anything to be complete. You are enough just as you are. As you cultivate inner peace, you begin to notice something beautiful. The more peaceful you are inside, the more peace you bring to the world around you. Your relationships become more harmonious, your interactions more loving, and your actions more compassionate. This is the natural effect of inner peace. It radiates outward and touches everyone you encounter. In Buddhism, this is known as metta, loving kindness. When you are at peace with yourself, you naturally extend that peace to others. You begin to see everyone as connected, as part of the same human experience. And this interconnectedness deepens your sense of joy. Inner peace is not a destination, it's a journey. It's something you cultivate and nurture over time, through practice, awareness, and understanding. The more you commit to this path, the more you will experience the profound joy that comes from living in alignment with your true nature. And as you develop inner peace, you begin to realize that this peace is not dependent on external circumstances. It's always within you, waiting to be uncovered. In the end, the joy that comes from inner peace is a lasting and stable joy. It's not the fleeting happiness that comes from external achievements or possessions. It's a deep, unshakable joy that remains even in the face of adversity. This is the joy that Buddhism speaks of, the joy that arises from the realization of the impermanent nature of life, the acceptance of what is, and the freedom that comes from letting go of attachment. It's a joy that doesn't depend on anything outside of yourself, but is rooted in the calm and clarity of your own mind. Meditation, finding stillness within. When was the last time you sat still and did absolutely nothing? In our fast-paced world, it can be hard to find time for silence, and even when we do, we often feel the urge to fill the space with noise or distractions. Yet, stillness is where true peace resides. If you ever feel overwhelmed, restless, or disconnected, it could be a sign that you need to stop and find that space of stillness within. But how do we find this stillness, especially when our minds are constantly racing? The answer is simple: meditation. Meditation is often misunderstood. Many people think it's about clearing the mind of all thoughts, but that's not entirely true. Instead, meditation is about becoming aware of your thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment or attachment. It's like watching the waves on the ocean. The waves keep coming, but you are not the waves. You are the observer, at peace, watching them rise and fall. Buddhism teaches that the mind is often like a restless monkey, jumping from one thought to another, never still. This constant movement creates stress and dissatisfaction. But meditation, especially in the Zen tradition, teaches us to calm the mind and return to the present moment. When we meditate, we learn to tame the monkey mind, bringing it to rest and letting the clarity emerge. In the beginning, meditation can feel challenging. It's hard to sit still, and the mind may wander endlessly. But with practice, you begin to notice moments of peace between the thoughts, moments where everything feels calm, clear, and expansive. These are the moments when you touch something deeper within you, something that is always there, yet often hidden beneath the surface of your busy life. Meditation is not about achieving something or getting it right. It's simply about being present with whatever arises in your mind. If a thought comes, observe it. If a feeling emerges, acknowledge it. But don't hold on to it. Just let it pass like a cloud moving across the sky. In this way, you create space between yourself and your thoughts, which allows you to experience life more fully and with less stress. The Buddha often spoke of mindfulness, which is essentially the practice of being fully present. This can be practiced during meditation, but also in every moment of your life. Whether you're eating, walking, or even just breathing, mindfulness is about being aware of what is happening right now, without distraction. Meditation offers a unique space where you can turn inward, away from the noise and chaos of the external world. By creating a regular meditation practice, you begin to strengthen your ability to be present, grounded, and peaceful in the midst of any situation. When you sit in meditation, you don't have to achieve anything. You don't have to force peace into your mind. Simply being in the moment, accepting whatever arises, is enough. Over time, this stillness becomes a habit, and the more you meditate, the easier it becomes to find that peace throughout your day. You begin to carry the calmness with you, even when life is chaotic. One of the most profound teachings in Zen meditation is the idea of just sitting, or shikantaza. This is an approach where you do nothing but simply sit, with no particular goal, no expectation, just being present with your experience. This can be a powerful way to reconnect with yourself, as you step away from the constant striving and simply be. In the practice of shikantaza, there is no need to chase enlightenment or peace. The practice itself is the reward. By simply being, you begin to realize that peace and contentment are not things to be attained, but experiences to be uncovered in the present moment. This is where the power of meditation lies. It is in the simplicity of doing nothing and allowing yourself to simply be. In the stillness, you connect with a deeper part of yourself, one that is always present, always calm, even in the midst of life's storms. For some, sitting still and meditating for even a few minutes may feel uncomfortable at first, but it's important to understand that discomfort is a part of the process. As you sit, you may notice feelings of restlessness, impatience, or even anxiety. This is normal. Meditation is not about escaping discomfort, but about learning to be with it. Over time, you will notice that these feelings don't last forever. They come and go, just like clouds in the sky. Through meditation, we learn to accept ourselves fully, without judgment. This is the essence of mindfulness, being with whatever is happening without needing it to be different. It's not about forcing calm or forcing peace. It's about allowing them to arise naturally. In Zen, there's a saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. This means that enlightenment or inner peace doesn't come from escaping the world. It comes from being fully engaged in the world, but with a peaceful mind. Whether you're washing dishes or running a marathon, the act of meditation helps you be present, at peace, in each moment. Meditation can be practiced anywhere. You don't need a special cushion or quiet room, although they can help. What matters most is the intention to sit, to be present, and to accept whatever arises. With time, the more you meditate, the more you begin to realize that you can find peace anywhere, at any moment. Even in the midst of chaos, you can find a space of stillness within. This is the gift that meditation offers. It teaches you that true peace doesn't come from external circumstances, but from the way you relate to those circumstances. By calming the mind and returning to the present moment, you open the door to joy, freedom, and clarity. As you continue to explore the practice of meditation, remember that it's not about perfection. It's about practice. Each time you sit, you are building a habit of peace. And even if your mind feels chaotic, even if you can't seem to quiet your thoughts, you are still practicing. The very act of sitting with yourself is a step towards greater calm, joy, and wisdom. Over time, the effects of meditation begin to permeate your daily life. You may notice that you are more patient, more compassionate, and less reactive to the stresses of the world. Meditation doesn't change the world around you. It changes the way you respond to it. And in that change, you find true freedom. So, if you've never meditated before, I encourage you to start with just a few minutes each day. Find a quiet space, sit comfortably, and simply focus on your breath. Let go of any expectations and just be. With each breath, let go of the noise, the distractions, and the stress. Just sit, breathe, and be. Over time, you will discover that stillness is not just something you find in meditation, but something you carry with you, wherever you go. The practice of mindfulness in solitude. Mindfulness is one of the core teachings in Buddhism, a practice that helps us be fully present in the moment, without distractions or judgment. When practiced in solitude, mindfulness has the potential to transform our relationship with ourselves and the world around us. It's a simple practice, yet profound in its ability to bring clarity, peace, and understanding into our lives. In our busy, modern world, it's easy to get caught up in the noise, the endless demands of work, social media, and responsibilities. Our minds are constantly buzzing, jumping from one thought to the next. This makes it difficult to find peace, to truly experience the present moment. But when we practice mindfulness, especially in solitude, we give ourselves the space to slow down and connect with the now. This is where the magic happens. Mindfulness starts with awareness, simply noticing what is happening right here, right now. It's not about analyzing or trying to change anything. It's about observing, with kindness and curiosity, whatever is happening in the present moment. Whether it's the sound of birds chirping outside, the feeling of your breath moving in and out, or the thoughts passing through your mind, mindfulness invites you to witness it all without judgment. In solitude, mindfulness allows us to dive deeper into ourselves. Without the distractions of other people or the pressures of daily life, we can become more attuned to our inner world. We may notice the thoughts we've been avoiding, the emotions we've been suppressing, or the patterns of behavior that have been running in the background of our lives. And when we notice these things, we can begin to understand them, rather than react impulsively. For example, if you're sitting alone in a quiet room, you might notice that your mind starts to wander. You may think about the work you have to do, the conversations you've had, or even the worries you've been carrying. But in mindfulness, rather than getting lost in these thoughts, you can simply observe them. I'm thinking about my work. I notice this. And then, gently, you bring your focus back to your breath, your body, or the sensations around you. This practice of bringing yourself back to the present moment is where mindfulness begins. As you continue to practice mindfulness in solitude, you'll notice that you start to develop a deeper sense of self-awareness. You begin to see how your mind works, how thoughts arise, how emotions come and go, and how your body responds to different situations. This kind of awareness helps you to detach from the constant stream of thoughts and reactions, which often dictate how we feel and act. One of the most powerful aspects of mindfulness is its ability to help us break free from habitual patterns. Often, we are so caught up in our thoughts and habits that we don't realize how they shape our actions. For example, you might notice that you tend to get anxious before social situations, or that you have a tendency to avoid uncomfortable feelings. Mindfulness helps you become aware of these automatic responses, and with that awareness comes the ability to choose a different way of being. In solitude, mindfulness provides the space to cultivate this awareness. With no external distractions, you can fully experience your thoughts and feelings without being overwhelmed by them. You can begin to understand the root causes of your reactions, and with time, you may even be able to release some of the things that no longer serve you. This is where true transformation happens, when we begin to understand ourselves at a deeper level. In Buddhism, the concept of mindfulness is closely tied to the idea of impermanence. Everything in life is constantly changing. Our thoughts, our emotions, even our physical bodies. Mindfulness helps us to embrace this truth, to understand that nothing is fixed or permanent. When we practice mindfulness in solitude, we can observe how everything flows. Our thoughts come and go, our feelings rise and fall, and our experience of the world shifts moment by moment. This realization helps us to let go of attachment and find peace in the present moment. As you sit in solitude, practicing mindfulness, you may begin to notice something beautiful. The mind becomes quieter. With time and consistent practice, the chatter of the mind begins to settle. You are no longer swept away by every passing thought or emotion. Instead, there is a deep sense of calm and clarity. This stillness is not the absence of thought, but rather the ability to observe thought without being caught in it. This is the essence of mindfulness. But mindfulness is not just about sitting quietly and observing. It is also about bringing this awareness into every moment of your life. You can practice mindfulness while walking, eating, or even washing dishes. It's about being fully present in whatever you are doing, without letting your mind wander to the past or the future. When you do this, you bring more meaning and depth to your daily experiences. In solitude, mindfulness also gives us the opportunity to practice self-compassion. Often, when we are alone, we can become our own harshest critic. We may replay past mistakes or beat ourselves up for not being good enough. But mindfulness invites us to treat ourselves with kindness and understanding. Rather than judging ourselves, we can simply acknowledge our feelings and accept them without resistance. This practice of self-compassion is a key aspect of Buddhist teachings, and it is essential for finding peace and happiness in solitude. Over time, the practice of mindfulness can lead to a deep sense of contentment. When we stop chasing after external validation and distractions, we begin to find joy in simply being with ourselves. We no longer need the approval of others or the constant stimulation of technology. We discover that solitude, when coupled with mindfulness, can be a source of great joy and fulfillment. The beauty of mindfulness in solitude is that it allows us to cultivate a sense of inner peace that is not dependent on anything outside of ourselves. It is not reliant on circumstances, relationships, or possessions. Instead, it is a peace that comes from within, a peace that we can carry with us no matter where we are or what we are doing. Mindfulness teaches us that we are not our thoughts, our emotions, or our circumstances. We are the awareness behind them. When we practice mindfulness in solitude, we begin to connect with this deeper aspect of ourselves, the part that is always at peace, always calm, and always present. This awareness is our true nature, and when we learn to rest in it, we experience a joy that is unshakable and timeless. In summary, the practice of mindfulness in solitude is a powerful tool for self-discovery and transformation. It allows us to be fully present with ourselves, to understand our thoughts and emotions without judgment, and to cultivate a deep sense of inner peace. Mindfulness helps us break free from the patterns of our busy, distracted minds and connect with the present moment. Through consistent practice, we can learn to embrace solitude not as a source of loneliness, but as a source of joy, clarity, and self-awareness. The more we practice, the more we realize that being alone is not something to fear, but something to celebrate. The art of self-reflection. Self-reflection is the gateway to understanding who we truly are. In the fast pace of our daily lives, it's easy to get lost in the noise of external demands, work, relationships, social media, and endless distractions. But when we take time to be still, when we stop and listen to our thoughts, we begin a journey of self-discovery. It's in this silence that we can learn more about our inner world and understand ourselves better. Buddhism teaches us that self-reflection is not just about thinking, but about observing our thoughts, feelings, and reactions without judgment. When you take a moment to sit quietly and look inward, you might notice a stream of thoughts passing through your mind. These thoughts are not who you are. They are just temporary visitors, like clouds drifting through the sky. The key is to observe them, without getting attached to them. When we reflect in this way, we begin to realize that our thoughts don't define us. This process is very much like watching the waves in the ocean. At first, the waves may seem overwhelming, but the more you watch, the more you realize that they rise and fall, they come and go. Similarly, our thoughts and feelings come and go, but they do not last forever. They don't control us unless we let them. The practice of self-reflection allows us to see our mind in this way, as a series of waves that are temporary, ever-changing, and not something we need to hold on to. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from attachment, the attachment to our thoughts, desires, and expectations. When we reflect on these attachments, we can begin to see them for what they truly are: illusions. The mind creates stories, worries, and expectations, but these are not truths. They are products of our imagination. When we can see these thoughts for what they are, we can let go of them. Self-reflection is the key to this process of detachment. It allows us to see the impermanent nature of our emotions and desires. In Buddhism, self-reflection is often practiced through meditation. Meditation creates a space where we can step back from the busy world and observe our thoughts without being swept away by them. Through meditation, we cultivate mindfulness, a clear awareness of the present moment. When we sit in stillness, we may notice how our mind jumps from one thought to another, often without any real control. This is natural, but as we continue to meditate, we start to develop the ability to bring our focus back to the present moment, without judgment. Self-reflection doesn't just help us understand our thoughts, but it also helps us connect with our emotions. How often do we push away uncomfortable feelings because we don't want to face them? Anger, sadness, fear. These emotions can be difficult to sit with. But through self-reflection, we learn that these emotions are just temporary states of being, not permanent parts of us. By observing them, we can begin to see that they are not as overwhelming as we think. They arise, they pass, and they don't define who we are. In fact, when we embrace our emotions through self-reflection, we allow ourselves to heal. Self-reflection also teaches us to be compassionate with ourselves. It's easy to be hard on ourselves when we make mistakes or feel like we are not good enough. But Buddhism encourages us to be gentle with ourselves, to approach ourselves with the same compassion that we would show to a friend. When we reflect on our actions, we do so with kindness, not criticism. This compassion helps us grow without the fear of failure. It reminds us that we are human, and it's okay to make mistakes along the way. Self-reflection can also reveal the patterns in our lives. As we observe our thoughts and behaviors over time, we begin to see how certain habits and beliefs shape our actions. Maybe we notice that we always react with anger when we're frustrated, or that we tend to withdraw when we're anxious. These patterns, although deeply ingrained, are not fixed. Through self-reflection, we can begin to identify these habits and work on changing them. This awareness is the first step towards personal transformation. In Buddhism, the practice of self-reflection is often called right view, one of the Noble Eightfold Path practices. Right view is the understanding that everything in life is interconnected, that all things are impermanent, and that suffering is a natural part of existence. When we reflect on life from this perspective, we see that our challenges, our mistakes, and even our successes are all part of the greater whole. We stop seeing ourselves as isolated beings and start understanding ourselves as part of the flow of life. One of the most profound lessons of self-reflection is the realization that we are not our thoughts, emotions, or actions. These are all just experiences that we go through. We are the observer, the one who watches it all unfold. This shift in perspective can bring profound peace. When we stop identifying so strongly with our thoughts and feelings, we begin to experience life from a place of stillness, acceptance, and inner peace. But self-reflection isn't just about understanding ourselves. It's also about understanding our relationship with others. When we reflect on our interactions with people, we begin to see how our behavior affects those around us. Are we kind, patient, and compassionate? Or are we reactive, judgmental, and harsh? Through self-reflection, we can see the impact of our words and actions, and we can work towards becoming more mindful and loving in our relationships. Sometimes, self-reflection brings up uncomfortable truths. It might bring up past wounds, unresolved emotions, or behaviors we aren't proud of. But this is all part of the healing process. In Buddhism, we learn to face our shadows with courage and compassion. We don't avoid the darkness, we bring light to it. And through this process, we begin to release old patterns that no longer serve us, making space for new growth and understanding. Self-reflection also teaches us the power of gratitude. When we reflect on our lives, we begin to see the blessings that we often overlook. The small moments of joy, the kindness of others, the beauty of nature, and the simple things that make life worth living. This practice of gratitude brings us back to the present moment and helps us appreciate life as it is, not as we wish it to be. Through self-reflection, we come to realize that we are constantly changing. We are not static beings, but rather, we are always evolving. Our thoughts, feelings, and circumstances are in a constant state of flux. By reflecting on this, we can stop holding on to the past or worrying about the future. We can simply be present with what is, knowing that everything is impermanent and that change is a natural part of life. In the end, self-reflection isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming aware. It's about understanding who we are, how we think, and how we relate to the world around us. Through this awareness, we can begin to live more authentically, more mindfully, and more compassionately. And in doing so, we unlock the potential for a deeper, more meaningful life. Self-reflection, when practiced with an open heart and mind, is the key to unlocking the joy of being alone. It's in these moments of stillness and self-awareness that we can truly connect with our inner wisdom and find lasting peace. Overcoming loneliness through Buddhist teachings. Loneliness, a feeling so deep it can make the world feel distant and cold. A quiet emptiness that often creeps in, even when we're surrounded by people. But what if I told you that loneliness is not something we need to fear or fight against? What if I told you it's something we can understand, learn from, and even embrace? Buddhism offers us a perspective on loneliness that is different from what we often hear. In the teachings of Buddha, loneliness is seen not as a curse, but as an opportunity, a gateway to greater understanding. Buddha taught us that suffering is part of life, and much of our suffering comes from our attachments. Our attachments to people, places, and even our own identities. When we're too attached to anything or anyone, we can never truly experience peace. We're always holding on, always fearing that something will slip away. This is where loneliness comes in. Loneliness is not the absence of people, it's the absence of attachment. When we feel alone, we might be feeling the absence of these attachments, and in that moment, we're being given a chance to explore life beyond them. But what does that mean? How do we overcome the loneliness that feels so heavy on our hearts? It starts with the understanding that loneliness is a reflection of our internal state, not necessarily our external reality. Buddha spoke of the idea of interdependence, how all beings are interconnected. This means that our connection to others is not something that exists only in the physical presence of another person. We are all connected, even in solitude. Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt lonely in a crowded room, surrounded by people, yet feeling like no one truly sees you or understands you? This is the loneliness of attachment, the belief that your worth is tied to external validation, to the presence of others. When we are constantly seeking the approval or presence of others, we become disconnected from our true selves. Buddha taught us the importance of letting go of the idea that we need to depend on others for our happiness, our sense of worth, and our fulfillment. True freedom comes from within, not from the people around us. When we realize this, loneliness begins to lose its power over us. Loneliness, in the Buddhist sense, becomes a mirror. It reflects our inner state, our attachments, and our beliefs. When we feel lonely, it's often because we've been holding on too tightly to something or someone. The key to overcoming this loneliness is to let go, to detach from the need for external validation and find our worth within. Let's take a closer look at how we can apply Buddhist teachings to overcome loneliness in practical ways. 1. Mindfulness and present moment awareness. The first step in overcoming loneliness is to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is the art of being fully present in the moment, without judgment. It's about observing our thoughts, feelings, and sensations without getting lost in them. When we're feeling lonely, we often get caught in a cycle of negative thoughts, such as, I am alone, I am not worthy, or no one cares about me. These thoughts only fuel our loneliness. Buddha taught that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness behind them. When we practice mindfulness, we begin to separate ourselves from these thoughts and realize that they do not define us. Instead of identifying with loneliness, we can observe it, notice it, and then let it pass. When we learn to be present, we stop looking for external validation. We begin to realize that we don't need anyone to complete us. We are whole as we are. Mindfulness helps us see loneliness for what it truly is, a temporary state of mind, not a permanent reality. 2. Meditation, the path to inner peace. Another powerful tool in overcoming loneliness is meditation. Meditation is a practice that allows us to connect with our inner selves, to quiet the mind, and to experience the peace that lies beneath our thoughts and emotions. In moments of loneliness, meditation can be a refuge, a space where we are not alone, because we are in touch with the deepest part of ourselves. Buddhism teaches that all things are impermanent, including our feelings of loneliness. Just as clouds pass in the sky, so too do our feelings. When we meditate, we learn to sit with our emotions, without judgment, without resistance. We let them come, we observe them, and we let them go. Meditation helps us realize that our loneliness is not something to fear or fight against, but something to embrace as part of our human experience. 3. Self-compassion and acceptance. Loneliness can make us feel like we're not good enough, like something is wrong with us. We may start to believe that we are unworthy of love or companionship, but this is where self-compassion comes in. Buddha taught the importance of compassion, not just for others, but for ourselves. We must be gentle with ourselves, especially when we're feeling alone. Self-compassion is the practice of treating ourselves with kindness, understanding, and care, just as we would treat a friend who is going through a difficult time. When we feel lonely, we can offer ourselves the same compassion, instead of criticizing or judging ourselves. We can remind ourselves that it's okay to feel lonely, that it's okay to be imperfect, and that we are worthy of love, both from others and from ourselves. 4. The beauty of impermanence. Buddhism teaches that everything is impermanent. This includes our feelings of loneliness. Just as the seasons change, so too do our emotions. When we feel lonely, it's important to remember that this feeling is temporary. It will pass. The more we embrace impermanence, the less power loneliness has over us. We learn to see it as a wave in the ocean, something that rises and falls, but never stays forever. Understanding impermanence helps us let go of our attachments. We realize that nothing, not even our loneliness, is permanent. This gives us the freedom to let go of the fear of being alone and to enjoy the space of solitude without clinging to it. It's in this space of detachment that true peace can be found. 5. Embracing the present moment. Finally, the key to overcoming loneliness is embracing the present moment. In our fast-paced world, we are often focused on the past or the future. We dwell on past experiences of loneliness or worry about being alone in the future. But in this constant mental chatter, we miss the present moment, the only moment where life truly exists. Buddhism teaches us to embrace the here and now. When we stop dwelling on the past or the future, we begin to experience the beauty of the present. In this moment, we are never truly alone. We are surrounded by the vastness of life itself, the breath in our lungs, the beating of our hearts, the quiet hum of the universe. In the present moment, we are whole. 6. Reconnecting with the self. When we overcome the attachments that cause loneliness, we begin to reconnect with the true self. This self is not defined by our relationships, our achievements, or our possessions. It is the essence of who we are beyond all the external labels and roles we play in life. This self is always present, always whole, always connected to the universe. Through Buddhist teachings, we learn that we are never truly alone. We are all interconnected, part of the same fabric of life. When we realize this, loneliness loses its hold on us. We find peace in knowing that we are part of something greater, something eternal, discovering purpose in solitude. When we think about solitude, many of us immediately associate it with loneliness, emptiness, or a lack of purpose. We often fear being alone because we believe we need others to validate our existence or give our life meaning. But what if, in solitude, we could discover a deeper sense of purpose, one that doesn't rely on the opinions or company of others? Solitude, when embraced properly, can be a doorway to understanding our true purpose in life. It's in those quiet moments, free from distractions and external influences, that we can hear the whispers of our soul. This is the time when we can ask ourselves, what do I truly want? What drives me? What brings me peace and fulfillment? These questions may not have immediate answers, but they are the starting point of a journey, an internal journey where we start to uncover the things that truly matter. In Buddhism, purpose is not something you find in the external world. Instead, it's something that arises from within. According to the teachings of Buddha, Life's true purpose is not to chase after external achievements or possessions, but to attain inner peace, compassion, and wisdom. This perspective can shift how we view our time alone. Instead of feeling disconnected or lost, we begin to see solitude as a space for growth and reflection, a place where we can cultivate the qualities that lead to a meaningful life. When we're alone, without the distractions of work, relationships, or social media, we are faced with our thoughts, our desires, and our fears. This confrontation with our inner world can be uncomfortable at first, but it is also where the answers lie. In solitude, we are free from the pressures to be something we are not. We can let go of the masks we wear to please others and instead explore what makes us feel truly alive. One of the first steps in discovering our purpose in solitude is simply to stop. We must learn to pause and take a deep breath. In today's fast-paced world, we rarely give ourselves permission to just be still. But when we stop and allow ourselves the space to reflect, we begin to notice what truly matters to us. It could be a passion we've long neglected, a cause we deeply care about, or a talent we've ignored for years. Solitude gives us the time to reconnect with these forgotten pieces of ourselves and begin to understand what our soul truly desires. The Buddhist teachings on mindfulness are particularly valuable in this context. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in each moment, without judgment or distraction. When we practice mindfulness in solitude, we create the conditions for self-discovery. We start to notice the thoughts and emotions that arise within us, and we learn to observe them without being overwhelmed by them. This awareness is the key to understanding our deeper purpose. By paying attention to our inner landscape, we begin to see patterns, desires, and insights that guide us toward a more authentic life. It's important to remember that purpose doesn't always come in grand revelations or dramatic moments. Sometimes, it's found in the quiet, everyday moments of solitude. Perhaps your purpose is to bring more kindness into the world, to cultivate a life of simplicity, or to seek knowledge and understanding. It could be something as simple as nurturing your relationships, creating art, or spending time in nature. Purpose is not a destination to be reached, but a way of being in the world. In solitude, we have the space to figure out what that way of being looks like for us. Solitude also allows us to let go of the distractions that keep us from our true purpose. The world constantly bombards us with messages about success, wealth, and status, but these external markers of success are not the path to fulfillment. In solitude, we can disconnect from these external pressures and reconnect with our inner truth. This is why many people find that when they spend time alone, they become clearer about what they truly value and what they want to contribute to the world. When we embrace solitude, we also learn to cultivate patience. Discovering our purpose is not an overnight process. It's a gradual unfolding, like a flower blooming slowly in the warmth of the sun. The key is to trust the process and allow ourselves to grow without rushing. In solitude, we learn to be gentle with ourselves, accepting that finding our purpose is a journey, not a destination. Buddhism teaches that true happiness comes from understanding our nature and living in alignment with it. This understanding doesn't come from the outside world. It comes from within. Solitude is the perfect environment for this kind of self-inquiry. When we sit with ourselves in silence, we begin to understand the patterns of our mind, the motivations behind our actions, and the desires that drive us. This self-awareness is the first step toward discovering our true purpose. As we spend more time alone, we also develop a deeper sense of self-reliance. In solitude, we realize that we don't need external validation to feel worthy or fulfilled. We begin to rely on our own inner wisdom and guidance, trusting ourselves to make decisions and take actions that align with our true purpose. This is a powerful shift, one that frees us from the constant need for approval or recognition from others. Solitude is not just about being alone in a physical sense, it's also about finding inner peace. When we are at peace with ourselves, we can step into our purpose with clarity and confidence. We stop searching for external sources of happiness and start creating it from within. This inner peace is what allows us to live a life of purpose, one that is aligned with our deepest values and desires. The Buddha once said, "You, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." This statement reminds us that we are worthy of finding our purpose and living a fulfilling life, not because of what others think of us, but because of who we truly are. Solitude gives us the opportunity to reconnect with this love and affection for ourselves, and in doing so, we uncover the purpose that has always been within us. It's important to note that solitude doesn't mean isolation or withdrawal from the world. While solitude is a time for self-reflection and personal growth, it is also the space where we can prepare ourselves to contribute to the world in meaningful ways. By discovering our true purpose in solitude, we become more aligned with our values and better equipped to make a positive impact in the lives of others. So, as you continue on this journey of discovering your purpose, remember that solitude is your ally. It is not something to be feared or avoided, but something to be embraced. In the quiet moments of being alone, you will find the answers to the questions that matter most. You will uncover the person you were always meant to be, and you will begin to live a life that is aligned with your truest purpose. Take the time to sit with yourself, to listen to the whispers of your soul. Trust that in the stillness, your purpose will emerge. And know that as you step into this purpose, you are stepping into a life of true fulfillment, one that is grounded in inner peace and guided by wisdom. Connecting with the universe in solitude. When we talk about solitude, we often think of it as being isolated, cut off from the world around us. But in reality, true solitude doesn't separate us from others. Instead, it brings us closer to the universe. The quiet moments we spend alone can open our hearts and minds to the vast, interconnected web of life. Through solitude, we can experience the deep sense of oneness with the world that many of us long for but struggle to find in our busy lives. Buddhism teaches us that everything in life is interconnected, like threads in a beautiful tapestry. Every person, every event, every moment is linked in ways that may not always be obvious, but they are all part of the same whole. When we take time to be alone, we can feel this connection on a deeper level. It's like sitting quietly by a river, where the flowing water seems to be telling you something, but the noise of the world often drowns out its message. In solitude, we can hear the river's wisdom, its gentle flow reminding us of the rhythm of life itself. At first, solitude might feel uncomfortable because we're so used to being surrounded by others. Our minds might race with thoughts of what we're missing or who we should be with. But if we embrace it fully, we begin to see that in those quiet moments, we are never really alone. The universe itself is constantly around us, supporting us, guiding us. In these moments, we start to sense our deep connection to everything: nature, people, animals, and the universe as a whole. We see that we are not separate from the world. We are a part of it, just as the river is part of the earth. One of the most profound ways to connect with the universe through solitude is through the practice of meditation. Meditation is often seen as a way to clear the mind, but it is also a way to open up to the vastness of the universe. When we sit in silence, free from distractions, we can feel the stillness of the world around us. In that stillness, we realize that everything is constantly changing, yet there is an underlying peace that holds it all together. We are part of that peace. Meditation helps us tune into the energy that flows through all things. It teaches us that everything, whether it's a thought, a feeling, or an experience, arises and passes away, just like the waves in the ocean. When we meditate in solitude, we become aware of these waves, observing them without attachment or judgment. We can learn to see the world not as something outside of us, but as something within us. In that space, we are free from the limitations of our ego, and we begin to experience life in its purest form. In Buddhism, there is a concept called emptiness, not emptiness in the sense of nothingness, but the idea that everything is interdependent and lacks a fixed, permanent essence. Everything is constantly changing, evolving, and interconnected. When we spend time alone, we can begin to grasp this concept more deeply. We start to understand that our life is not separate from others. Our thoughts, actions, and energy ripple out into the world, influencing everything around us. In solitude, we begin to see that our existence is just a small part of a much bigger picture, and this realization brings a profound sense of peace. When we feel connected to the universe, we also begin to understand the impermanence of all things. Everything is in constant motion, and nothing remains the same forever. This knowledge can free us from attachment and fear. In solitude, we are reminded of the fleeting nature of life, and instead of feeling sad or fearful, we can find beauty in this transience. It teaches us to appreciate the present moment for what it is, knowing that it will pass, and that is part of its beauty. The Buddha often spoke of interbeing, the concept that all things exist in relation to one another. Just as a flower cannot bloom without the earth, sunlight, and rain, we too cannot exist without the support of the world around us. In solitude, we begin to see this truth more clearly. We realize that everything we need to feel complete is already within us. The universe is not something separate from us. It is a part of us. Through solitude, we become more in tune with this truth, and it brings us a deep sense of peace. One of the most powerful ways to connect with the universe is through nature. When we spend time alone in nature, whether it's in a quiet forest, by the ocean, or in the mountains, we can feel the energy of the earth. Nature has a way of grounding us, of reminding us that we are a small part of a much bigger whole. In those moments of solitude, we realize that the same energy that flows through the trees, the rivers, and the sky also flows through us. We are not separate from nature. We are part of it. As we spend more time in solitude, we begin to see the beauty in every moment. The simple act of breathing, the feeling of the sun on our skin, the sound of birds singing. All of these small moments become profound when we are fully present. We start to notice the interconnectedness of everything around us, and it fills us with a sense of wonder and gratitude. Solitude helps us slow down and appreciate the richness of life that we often overlook when we are caught up in the noise of the world. Through solitude, we also learn to listen, not just to our own thoughts, but to the world around us. The universe is constantly sending us messages, whether through the wind, the stars, or the rhythm of our heartbeat. In silence, we can hear these messages more clearly. We can begin to understand the subtle ways in which the universe communicates with us. It might not always be obvious, but if we pay attention, we can feel the guidance that is always there, waiting for us to listen. As we connect with the universe in solitude, we also learn to trust in the flow of life. We no longer feel the need to control every aspect of our existence, because we understand that everything is unfolding as it should. Just as a river flows effortlessly toward the ocean, we too can trust in the natural flow of life. We don't need to force things to happen. When we are in tune with the universe, things naturally fall into place. Ultimately, connecting with the universe in solitude is about surrendering to the present moment. It's about letting go of our need to constantly achieve, to constantly be doing, and simply being. In those quiet moments of being, we realize that we are enough. We don't need anything outside of ourselves to feel complete. The universe is within us, and in solitude, we can reconnect with that infinite source of peace, wisdom, and love. So, next time you find yourself alone, remember that you are never truly alone. You are connected to everything around you, and through solitude, you can tap into the vast, infinite energy of the universe, transforming loneliness into joyful solitude. Welcome, dear seeker. You've walked this path with us, and now, here we are, at the final step. What a beautiful journey it has been, hasn't it? Together, we've explored the depths of solitude, and now, it's time to bring it all together. But let me ask you, what does solitude feel like to you now? Is it still an empty room? Or has it become a sacred space where you meet yourself? Loneliness and solitude are not the same. Loneliness is an ache, a longing for something or someone outside of yourself. But solitude, true solitude, is the joy of realizing you need nothing more than what you already are. When you shift your perspective, the loneliness dissolves, leaving behind a sense of wholeness. That is the essence of what we've been learning here. Let me share a simple story. Once, a student came to a Zen master and said, "Master, I am alone and miserable." The master replied, "If you are alone, who is there to make you miserable?" The student was confused, but later realized that his suffering came from within, not from being alone, but from resisting it. You see, when you accept solitude, it becomes your sanctuary, not your prison. Look at the teachings of Buddhism. It gently reminds us that everything in life is impermanent, including relationships, possessions, and even emotions. When we cling to these things, we suffer. Solitude teaches us to let go. It invites us to sit quietly with ourselves and see life as it is, not as we wish it to be. And in that stillness, there is freedom. But how do we transform loneliness into joy? The answer lies in connection, not to others, but to yourself in the present moment. Imagine sitting in a quiet garden. The world is still. You hear the rustling of leaves, the chirping of birds. Do you feel lonely in that moment, or do you feel alive? That aliveness comes from mindfulness. Mindfulness is not a difficult practice. It's as simple as paying attention. Right now, as you listen to my words, notice your breath. Feel the rise and fall of your chest. This is mindfulness. And when you live in the present moment, even solitude becomes rich and fulfilling. Another secret to joyful solitude is gratitude. Instead of focusing on what's missing, appreciate what you have. Be grateful for the quiet moments, for the chance to rest, reflect, and recharge. Gratitude shifts your energy from lack to abundance, from longing to contentment. And let us not forget self-compassion. Often, we are our own harshest critics. In solitude, the voice of self-judgment can grow louder. But remember, you are human, and being human means being imperfect. Treat yourself with kindness. Speak to yourself as you would to a dear friend. Solitude is the perfect time to practice this. Solitude also gives us the gift of creativity. Many great artists, writers, and thinkers found their inspiration in moments of aloneness. When you're not distracted by the world, your mind has space to dream, to imagine, and to create. Don't see solitude as empty time. See it as fertile ground where your ideas can grow. In the end, solitude is a mirror. It reflects who you truly are, not who you pretend to be for the world, not who others expect you to be, but your most authentic self. And when you learn to love that self, loneliness disappears. You realize you are your own best companion. Now, before we part ways, let me ask one final favor. If this journey has touched your heart or given you new insights, please show your support. Did you know there are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of viewers subscribe? So, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Woven. Your support helps us continue sharing this wisdom with the world. As we conclude, remember this. The joy of solitude is not something you achieve. It is something you uncover. It has always been within you, waiting for you to notice it. So, as you step away from this video, carry this truth with you. Embrace the quiet moments. Welcome them as old friends. And in those moments, may you find not loneliness, but a deep and abiding joy. Thank you for walking this path with us. May your journey ahead be filled with peace, clarity, and the boundless joy of solitude.